There are quiet afternoons when a person stands silently in their own home, and it feels as if the walls are slowly closing in. Not because the space has shrunk, but because there's simply too much stuff. Not because time has passed quickly, but because memories stretch endlessly across every drawer, every photograph, every old wool sweater from a decade long gone. Have you ever stood in front of your closet holding an item from years ago and suddenly had no idea what to do with it? You can't throw it away, but you don't really need it either. So you place it right back where it was, and you do it again, day after day, year after year. Have you ever felt that way? Here on Senior Reset, videos like this are made especially for you, for those who are living meaningful, golden years, but are quietly facing challenges no one talks about. Decluttering isn't just about tidying a house. It's about letting go of what no longer serves you. It's about clearing space to live again, lighter, brighter, freer. It's about beginning again, whether you're 60 or 75. Today you'll hear a story about 9 brutal, but deeply compassionate, decluttering hacks that have helped countless seniors clear out their entire homes in just 48 hours. More importantly, they help clear the mind, the heart, and the path ahead. This isn't about label bins or folding clothes Marie Kondo style. What you're about to hear isn't meant for the young. It's for those who have truly lived, who have lost, loved, held on tight, and are now finally ready to let go. Stay until the end of this video because hack number 9 isn't just about parting with possessions. It will help you say goodbye to what's been holding you back all these years. And now, let's begin. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't live in the muscles but deep in the heart. It's the feeling of standing in your own home, not someone else's, and still feeling completely stuck. Mrs. Eileen had lived in that house for over 40 years. Every room held its own story. The bookshelf her husband built by hand, the doodles her children had drawn on the kitchen wall, the very first handwritten letters she wrote when they moved in. But time passed, her husband passed away, her children grew up and moved far away, and the house grew quieter, but never empty. It was full, so full it became suffocating, and one day she looked around and quietly said to herself, "It's time." Hack 1: the stranger test. Would a stranger understand why I kept this, or would they just see clutter? That was the very first question Eileen asked herself as she sat in front of a bookshelf filled with 14 old photo albums. Some were faded, many filled with duplicate shots, and in several the faces were no longer familiar. She closed her eyes and imagined it, a complete stranger walking into her home, flipping through each page, turning each book. Would they see a life carefully recorded, or just a stack of dusty paper? The answer left her quiet for a long time, and then she began to choose. She kept the 3 most meaningful albums. The one with her wedding photos, the one from her daughter's first birthday, and the one capturing her blooming rose garden in the spring of 1989. The rest she gently packed up and took to be recycled. No tears, no regret, because she understood now, memories live in the heart, not on the pages. Hack 2: the emotional map. How do you feel when you step into each room of your home? Not all spaces feel the same. Some places warm you, like the kitchen, still carrying the faint smell of toasted bread, but others feel like the air disappears the moment you walk in. For Eileen, that space was the small storage room behind the kitchen. Every time she opened its door, it felt like being pulled back into a place with no exit. Her mother's old sewing machine, broken. A bin of plastic toys once loved by her grandson, now a college student, and stacks of unopened Christmas cards, never sent. One quiet afternoon, Eileen took a blank sheet of paper and walked through her home. For each space, she wrote down one word. Bedroom, peaceful. Living room, lonely. Bookshelf, pressure. Storage room, sorrow. And then she began with the space that made it hard to breathe. Not everything needed to go. Just one item each day was enough. enough to let her mind breathe again. Hack 3, the next chapter. Check, does this item serve the life I want to live in the next 10 years? That question changed everything. It didn't ask about the past. It didn't ask about fear. It asked about the future. Eileen had been a school teacher for 32 years. In her garage, there were dozens of boxes, lesson plans, old grade books, photocopied worksheets, certificates of merit. One spring morning, she dragged the box into the yard. Surrounded by the scent of old paper, she brushed off the dust, leafed through the pages, and then suddenly sat down, silent. The children in those photos were now parents themselves. The lessons that once gave her breath now lay still, untouched, unneeded. And she asked herself, what is my next chapter? Do I want to keep living as a retired teacher clinging to old documents? Or as someone learning to garden, to cook, to write again? She kept a few handwritten letters from former students. The rest, she folded neatly, boxed up, and donated to a nearby school. Her eyes welled up, not from sorrow, but from relief. This was not letting go of her past. This was making space for who she was becoming. Hack 4, present tense belongings. If I had to describe this item using present tense words, could I? Eileen opened her closet. Inside was a lifetime, a church blouse from 1985, a dress worn to her niece's wedding in 1993, high heels she once wore as a teacher. She laid each piece gently on the bed and asked herself, did I wear this last week? Will I wear this to a future event? Am I wearing this regularly? What remained were just 5 or 6 outfits, comfortable, easy, and perfect for the life she lives now. Morning walks, gentle yoga, cooking with her retirement group. Everything else she folded neatly and brought to the local women's center. They needed them, and she was ready to let go. That evening, when she closed the closet door, Eileen no longer saw a space crammed with memories, but a calm, open space made for the present and the bright days ahead. And just like that, you've walked through the first phase of this journey, looking inward to discover what's really holding you back. These 4 hacks aren't just tips. They are keys to unlocking a new chapter of your life. Decluttering doesn't truly begin when you start folding clothes. It begins the moment you're willing to let go of an old version of yourself. And now that Eileen has faced her memories, named the emotions in every room and every item, she knows it's finally time to begin. Hack 5, the brutal sort method. No fancy systems needed, just one simple rule. Sort everything into 3 piles, quickly and without negotiation. Must keep, essential and irreplaceable, like medications, important documents, and daily use personal items. Maybe the most dangerous category of all. Haven't used in over a year. Discard immediately. No excuses. Eileen started in the kitchen, which she once believed was harmless. But within just 10 minutes, she discovered 19 ceramic mugs, even though she only drank tea from her favorite one each morning, 4 full sets of pots, 3 of them still with price tags, a broken juicer from 2003. She didn't hesitate. She kept just 2 mugs, 1 solid set of pots, and the juicer straight to the trash without a second thought. But the real shock came when she opened the drawer of tablecloths. 11 of them, still in their original packaging. For the next big party, she used to tell herself. But in truth, she hadn't hosted a large gathering in over 6 years. And just like that, every item that left wasn't just one less object. It was one less invisible burden of what if that had been quietly anchoring her for years. Hack 6, the 8-minute blitz. Clean fast, stop on time. Eileen realized she no longer had the strength to clean for hours like she once did. And whenever she sat down in a room full of clutter, it wasn't just her body that tired. It was her heart. Too many decisions, too many memories. The solution? Set a timer and clean for just 8 minutes. Then stop. She set the clock, 8 minutes, and began with her bedside drawer. What was inside? 3 old reading glasses, 14 pens, only 2 with ink, a coupon that expired in 2017, a scented candle she never lit. When the timer rang, she stopped immediately, even though there were still things left to sort. For the first time, she finished a decluttering session without feeling drained. That afternoon, she did it again. 8 minutes in the living room revealed 22 decorative pillows for a 4-seat sofa, 8 knitted throws, 5 dusty candle holders. Each blitz felt like freeing a long-held breath. By the end of the day, she had completed 6 8-minute rounds. Gentle, manageable, and she still had enough energy left to make herself tea and call her daughter. Hack 7. The cost of clutter. Eileen used to hold on to many just-in-case items, fearing the cost of having to replace them. But when she finally tackled the garage, she realized something powerful. Keeping things was costing her far more than letting them go. A folding chair for a someday picnic had taken up space for over 5 years. An old sewing machine, untouched since her husband passed, occupied an entire corner. She began asking herself 3 simple but brutal questions. If I needed this again, could I buy it? How much would it actually cost? When was the last time I used it? For most things, the answers were clear. Yes, she could buy it again for $10 or $30. And no, she hadn't touched it in 5 to 10 years. But the true cost? Space she could no longer use. Time wasted cleaning around it. The constant mental weight of a chaotic, overcrowded environment. And so, the garage stopped being a museum of memories and returned to its true purpose. A place to park her car, and finally, to breathe again. Hack 8, the emotional energy scale. The biggest challenge for many seniors isn't a lack of time. It's a lack of emotional energy to make decisions. Eileen created a simple scale from 1 to 10 for every item she owned. 1. No emotional value. Discard immediately. 10. Irreplaceable. Keep and honor. Everything in between. Decide quickly. No overthinking. Her closet was a true battlefield. 57 clothing items. But she only wore 9 of them regularly. She rated each one honestly. The vibrant blue dress she wore to church every Sunday? A 9. The old scratchy sweater that no longer fit? 1. No deep analysis. No trip down memory lane. Just one honest question. Does this item still bring me positive energy when I see it? And when she looked back, she realized something profound. It wasn't the sentimental items draining her. It was the average ones. The ones that weren't meaningful enough to cherish, but not insignificant enough to throw away. Now, every item she chose to keep had a clear purpose, both in her home and in her heart. After 2 days, the house was still the same house. But to Eileen, it had become something entirely new. No longer a place to simply exist, but a place to live again, with awareness, with intention, and with a heart that finally felt light. Hack 9, the gratitude goodbye. There's something no one teaches us about growing older. No one prepares us for the day when we must say goodbye to the very life we spent decades building. Goodbye to a chipped bowl that once held 1,000 family meals. Goodbye to an old photograph where a loved one no longer exists. Goodbye to a child's toy when that child now has children of their own. Eileen understood this more deeply than anyone. On the 3rd day, after most of her belongings had been sorted, she set aside a few final items. Not because she was clinging to them, but because she knew they deserved a proper farewell. The first was her husband's wool sweater, the one he wore every Sunday morning while reading the paper. She placed it gently on the sofa where he used to sit, poured a cup of tea just the way he liked it, and instead of crying or holding back, she laid her hand on the sweater and whispered, "Thank you for walking with me through so many winters. I'll carry your warmth in my heart always." Then she folded it carefully and placed it in a donation bag, so someone else in need of warmth this winter could feel a little bit of his love. Next came the white porcelain dishes, used for every family gathering. Each chip and scratch told a story. She remembered the full tables, the laughter ringing across the room, the soft flicker of candles on winter nights. But now the table had only 2 chairs, one for her and one left empty. And she understood. Memories don't live in things. They live in what we give each other: love, laughter, glances, food shared. She ran her fingers along the last plate, placed it into a box, and whispered, "May you help another family create dinners as full of love as mine once were." Then came the drawer filled with her daughter's old toys, a worn-out teddy bear, a chess set with missing pieces, and wax crayon drawings on curled-up paper. She didn't throw them away. She took a photo of each item, saving them in a digital album she called My Daughter's Childhood. Then she wrote a small note for every toy. "Thank you for keeping my little girl smiling through her earliest years. Thank you for being her companion and comfort." She wrapped each toy with care and sent them to a local daycare center, where a new child's laughter would carry the memories forward. And then there was the hardest one of all, her wedding dress. Hung for over 40 years, its ivory white still glowing faintly, still holding a piece of her heart. She slipped it on one last time. It no longer fit, but the memory did. Standing in front of the mirror, she whispered, "Thank you for walking with me into a beautiful life. I may no longer be the girl in this dress, but I am still the woman who was fully, deeply loved." She embraced it gently, folded it with great care, and donated it to a group that creates free wedding dresses for brides in need. That afternoon, after her final farewell, Eileen opened every window in her home. Light poured in, fresh air swept through the rooms. The house, once a museum of the past, now felt like a quiet, open space full of new promise. And Eileen, the 72-year-old woman who had once felt so stuck, now stood in the center of it all, feeling as if she too was finally opening the door to a brand new chapter of her life. Have you ever wondered, if I thanked the objects that served me for a lifetime, would letting go still feel painful? If I could say thank you before releasing something, would it disappear or transform into something beautiful? Gratitude is the most graceful way to let go without regret. It is a blessing for a chapter that has come to an end. And when you declutter with gratitude, you're not just letting go of things. You're shedding the invisible cords that have quietly held you back for years. People often say old age is a time for rest, but few ever mention this. True rest only comes when the mind has been cleared. When Eileen closed the garage door for the last time, the one once packed with boxes, tools, and unspeakable memories, she didn't cry, she didn't smile, she just stood still and took a deep breath. Because for the first time in years, her house was no longer a place that stored the past, but a space that finally welcomed the present. The 9 decluttering hacks she practiced weren't just tips to get rid of stuff. They were 9 steps back home, to herself, from holding on to what once felt impossible to release, to asking, who am I now and how do I want to live from here? From sorting with logic, to letting go with gratitude, from clinging to maybe I'll need this, to realizing I need lightness more than I need more. And now it's your turn. You may not be Eileen. You might be George, 74 years old, holding on to every toolbox because you were once an engineer. You might be Lila, 69, still saving every birthday card since 1982. Or maybe you're simply someone who's looking around your home, feeling a weight you can't quite name. Whoever you are, I want you to remember this. Freedom doesn't come from how much you let go. It comes the moment nothing owns you anymore. And letting go is never a loss, when it's done with gratitude and the courage to keep living. If there's an item in your home that's been making you hesitate, try placing your hand on it and asking, am I keeping this because I'm afraid that letting it go means losing a part of myself? If the answer is yes, step back, exhale gently, and know that in that moment, you're already moving toward freedom. Now, I'd love to invite you to share. Have you ever let go of something that brought you a surprising sense of peace? Or is there a small item that still makes you pause every time? Tell your story in the comments, not just because I'll read it, but because maybe, just maybe, your words will be the light someone else needs as they walk their own path through this journey. If this video touched something in you, please hit subscribe and follow Senior Reset. This is a place where stories of older adults are not forgotten. They are heard, shared, and honored. We are not simply clearing away. We are clearing the way for a brand new chapter. And you know what? That chapter is still waiting for you to write it day by day, breath by breath, and item by item, with gratitude in your hands and freedom in your heart. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this video. We'll see you in the next one.